Tom, it's great to see you. Of course, a lot of our fans in this area have been watching you and the Phillies take on the Atlanta Braves this week. Now you get
Yeah,
to stay in the South for some Tide football, but welcome to our show.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's actually pretty cool that I'm able to do the Braves Phillies games and then just stay for a day in Atlanta before I go to Tuscaloosa in preparation for Saturday's game. So, this is a great time of the year when you cross over sports. There's always those different spots where you cross over football to basketball or baseball to football, and this is that kind of year.
Well, you get a great football assignment coming up on Saturday, Alabama in its SEC opener against the Ole Miss Rebels. Just as you've done your prep work and started to get set for this matchup, what stands out to you the most about the Crimson Tide and what we've kind of learned about this football team through 3 games?
It's interesting. Just looking back at some of the numbers, it seems like I think Ole Miss won this game in 2015, and that was kind of the last time that Alabama had some issues at quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like the just putting one player in after another in there. I'm interested to see how it works this weekend because when was the last time besides that there was any question? Even when Tua went in for Jalen, I mean, it's talent for talent, and not that these guys aren't, but those are NFL players that obviously have gone on to have decent careers, no doubt. So that's the interesting part about all this, and I'm also intrigued by all this the stuff that's going on social media with Lane. I think that's kind of interesting too. It's made very entertaining for me. So I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, injuries play a big role for both of these teams, but I think I think the wake up call for Alabama came last week, and I think that was probably a pretty good time for that wake up call.
Absolutely. As Crimson Tide were able to get a tight, but yes, tough
Yep.
win at South Florida in a game where we did not see Jalen Milroe. What stands out to you the most when you think about Jalen Milroe and kind of his story and his journey to Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, so I think what's interesting about him, as you see him continue to progress, obviously big time high school player. There's no doubt. I mean, Katy, Texas, but I also think that it's not as easy as people think it is to sort of settle into an NFL quality program like Alabama, and I think that's part of what we're seeing right now. I'm excited to see him. I think it was great that Nick said that he was the starter early on this week. Now, whether it stays that way, who knows? But I think that's good for him to kind of get these reps. And I know that's sort of NFL mode, but I really think it's good for him to get these reps as they get ready for this ball game. So I'm excited to see how he plays. I'm excited to see how he responds. I'm excited to see how everybody else responds with him because I really do think that college football, as we've seen with Colorado, it's about some of these playmakers, and can these playmakers step up to help him take that next step for this for this school?
One of the great resources you have as a national announcer on CBS is getting to meet with your broadcast team, getting to meet with the head coach
Yeah.
of the Crimson Tide, Nick Saban. What do you look forward to most about that meeting coming up later this week?
Well, I think the biggest thing is I have to tell him that John Kruk says hi because they're both former West Virginia guys. And we went over the Mount Rushmore of West Virginia folks the other day. Jerry West, obviously, Nick Saban. I asked John if he was on it. He said no, but I'll ask Nick about that as well. John has a lot of great things to say about Nick. I've never talked to Coach in person. I'm excited about that because I think that when you are doing these games, one of the true joys of doing these games is getting to talk to people like him or any college coach that's at the highest level. And I'm looking forward to that part of it, just to kind of pick his brain and just see what what he has to offer as far as this game goes. I know it's probably, he's not going to open up too much about that, but I think it makes you better as a person when you talk to people like him about anything. But I'm looking forward to talking to him about John Kruk because John is very excited that I'm doing this game.
Well, Coach loves baseball, so that'll be a very
Yeah, he
entertaining
does. Yeah.
conversation. Well, that's certainly good. Well, you're part of a 3-man booth along with your sideline reporter at Tiffany
Mhm.
Blackman. You'll have Ross Tucker, Jason McCourty with you in the booth. What can you tell us about your broadcast and the kind of interaction you guys have together?
Well, Ross and I have done a lot of games together on radio. This is going to be our first game on television, but I've known Ross since he was 18 years old. I used to be the voice of Princeton football, and Ross played for Princeton. So that's when Raj, when you're old, when you're actually partnering with somebody who is the guy that you called his college games for. So he and I have been together a long time. We've done games for probably the last 12 years together. He's very informative. He's the knowledge is exuding out of him. He's passionate about college football. I mean, passionate about it. And I think that's going to come through in the telecast. And Jason and I have done one game together on TV and then one game together on radio. He's pretty good. He's got a pretty good feel for it. You're going to hear him talk a lot about defense, but about coverages too. And I know he's looking forward to talking about both of the squad's wide receivers, because if Ole Miss is healthy, they got some pretty good wide receivers. And obviously Alabama has got some decent ones too. So I think he's looking forward to that as well. And for those in the Tuscaloosa area, if you get any of the Atlanta stations, I mean, Tiffany does a morning show in Atlanta. She's sharp. I mean, she's a former college soccer player. Her dad was a longtime NFL coach. She's my sideline reporter for the NFL. So she and I have done a bunch of games together recently. And I'm looking forward to her on this sideline because I think she really enjoys the college atmosphere. And that's the part of it. I mean, this is a big time matchup right now in the early part of the year, and we recognize that. And it's the first time in a while that that Gary Danielson isn't doing a game, an SEC game on CBS. You know, Brad and Vern obviously have done the games recently. They're going to be in Penn State for the whiteout. It's all part of CBS's new venture into the Big Ten. So we're excited about it. I mean, the fans they're going to love Ross's enthusiasm and Jason's knowledge. I'm just sort of the traffic cop through the whole thing.
Well, and you mentioned the first time we haven't seen Gary Danielson on a broadcast for a long time.
Yeah.
CBS and the SEC, such a great partnership, even going
back
to the 1990s.
Yep.
For you, not being necessarily from the South, being more from the Northeast, what was it like kind of from afar, seeing that relationship between SEC and CBS grow at the same time to where it has been the last few years as one of the best broadcasts on television?
I got to tell you, Raj, it's for me. I mean, during the baseball season, it's a little harder, but we play a lot of Saturday night games. And from a football standpoint, I did Princeton, I did Rutgers, I did a lot of CBS Sports Network games previously. You know, I've done the NFL for the last 10 years on CBS. But Saturday at 3:30 is always you sit down, you're ready to go. To me, it's one of the best relationships that there's been in television. Obviously, we all understand the business of the sport and why things go from one spot to another. It's understandable. But I loved listening. I mean, Vern's my guy. So to be able to listen to him was incredible. I mean, he's taught me a lot. He's such a good friend. And I love Brad too. But to me, it was always, even when we're doing NFL games, you always had to sit and watch at 3:30. So I'm looking forward to this opportunity. Last year we were able to dip our toe into the pool a little bit as the second crew doing some SEC games. You know, the Georgia-Auburn game was one that we did. And this one obviously is at a higher level, I think, because it's the Lane and Nick show. And, there's a lot of questions for both of these teams. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it has been a great relationship. And I know that if you ask Sean McManus, the president of CBS Sports, I mean, he is, he's talked about the SEC and how great it's been over the years. And it really has been a great relationship.
Well, Tom, this week you'll be in Tuscaloosa. What's your schedule look like in the next few weeks, football and baseball wise?
Yeah, so this weekend, obviously, doing some college football. Next week, I'm off because the Phillies are in the mode of clinching. So, I'll step aside from football for a couple of weeks while the Phillies get into the postseason. Obviously, that's a fingers crossed, but they're in pretty good shape right now. So we'll meet with the Alabama coaching staff on Friday. We met with the Ole Miss coaching staff on Wednesday. And and then football will start again in the middle of the month. Probably there's 3 different games that CBS has to choose from in the middle of the month. So there could be a chance that I'm back with Alabama at some point. But there's also a chance it could be outside the SEC. But it's baseball for the next several weeks.
There you go. Well, Tom McCarthy, thank you so much for joining us and talking about the Crimson Tide, the Ole Miss Rebels. Have a great call coming up on Saturday, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. I appreciate it, buddy.